Hi. Welcome aboard. Let's see. So, I'm Petra, and I'm from HopeTranscends.com, and I'm excited to have an open forum conversation about who are we, self-discovery, and values, and how do we change if we don't like our mindset, and how do we control it? How do we find out? So the question I have really is, have you ever felt lost? Like you really don't know where you are or who you are anymore? Everything that you thought about yourself is all broken up into a million pieces. Yeah, I've been there too. I've been there a lot of times. But one particular time I remember, I must have been 19 years old, so young. And I thought I knew what life was. And I was totally rebellious against everything anyone told me. Oh yeah, I was going to do whatever I wanted to. And I did. I jumped right into a relationship with somebody that was more just free fun and ended up with a child. Oh my God. Was that ever interesting? I mean, love that child. Absolutely love that child. Grateful for the child. But what an experience. I had no idea that I was going to be married to a man who had come from a broken, drunken family of abuse. Wow. I had come from some pretty difficult raising. So I wasn't afraid of or unaccustomed to that kind of treatment, but having a child, jumping into the marriage, living with the parents who were dysfunctional and hated me. Well, my mother-in-law hated me. It was pretty different, right? And I think I lost me. I know I lost me all the way. I became that people pleaser, that person who, would do whatever. Doormat, don't say much, that girl that got stuck in the bar and the husband got jealous and brought her home and beat her up. Yeah, that was me. And, I was completely broken when I left that relationship. I really don't know who I was. It was another one of those moments where I had to crawl back home to a home where I was criticized for whatever, I shouldn't have been doing, right? Rebellious, with a child, living in the back 40 for a Western Wisconsin girl, farmer's daughter. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I self-discovered and how we all can, everyone can, and I love stories, right? Stories really are important to me because I think stories are how we grow, how we develop, how we share something of ours so that other people can learn from it, right? I always talk about full recovery. What is full recovery? Well, full recovery is that moment where you go, yeah, all this means something now. I got somebody who really needs my help and they're walking that path and I remember it so well, So let's see, stick with me because this is going to be a fun one. If you give me a rose, I'll say hi to you. So, and sometimes I'll miss that. So hi to everybody already. Let's see, I got so many awesome people. If you give me a Fiesta Pop, I will give you I'll give you a full session, a one-on-one, And all you have to do is just hit me up in bio. All right. If you want a psychic profile, that's really an awesome one, because I have this awesome gift. I can sit with somebody for a very short period of time, and I can tell them all about who they are and their characteristics, the amazing, the maybe not so amazing that you don't want to have to look at, those things that you need to work on. It's an amazing gift that I've gotten through all the work and all my experiences. So if you want that, I can do that for you. Yeah, if you wanna change your mindset, if you want a tool just to change the way you feel, I always say, you can control the way you feel, right? So when my grandson says he's all angry and he's throwing a fit, and I just let him have his moment, right? Because we all need to express it in a safe manner. So he expresses his anger, his frustration, and I'm just like, it's okay, buddy, And so then it's like, oh, tell me your thought. So if you tell me your thought, I can give you the opposite of it. Always think of it as a battery analogy, right? If I want that key to change the way I feel, then all I have to do really is change that thought. So for one of those, we can work on any negative thought you have, and we can turn it around, okay? So I'm just going to keep going here. Let's see. What is self-discovery? What does that mean? Self-discovery, right? I think when I was feeling that way, it was like pulling all of my characteristics. What are characteristics? Who are we really? I think it's a deep dive into what are my values? What are the things that I hold dear? And my characteristics are those things that I do real well, that I forget about. Even the ones that other people told me that weren't really true. Those could be thoughts of characteristics. Those are unfounded and unbelieved because they don't have fact behind them, right? So you can control it better. So, your mindset. So I say journal. I journaled. I wrote down everything that I could think of, for myself, and all the negative thoughts I journaled, and it really helped a lot. It created an opportunity for me to see patterns in my life. Because why are patterns important to you? Why are patterns important in your life? Anybody got an idea out there? Yeah. Once you find patterns in your life, now you can say, these are the bumps in the road. These are the things. These are the routine behaviors. That you can examine your behavior and say, ooh, how does this behavior make me feel? How does it affect my life? Right? Because if I have a behavior and I have a pattern and I have a behavior, and that behavior is something I want to work on or change because I don't like it about myself, now I can find a tool for that. Now I can look at what motivates me. What kind of mindset do I have to have? What kind of tools do I need in order to, have better control of my life? I like to be happy. I love to live in a happy, and when my happy gets low or my vibration gets lower, it taps on my mind, and then it creates times where my mind wants to take over for me of the negative, right? And rebuilding my life and keeping me straight and sober and happy, and I can't say everybody could be happy all the time, because I'm not. I work on the things that I teach people are absolutely the things I'm working on. I'm absolutely working on those things too, the advice that I get to give and the support that I get to give to people is pretty amazing. I'm very grateful for that. The people who see my posts and appreciate me, I'm grateful for that. So I think if I was to look at value, and we're going to jump down to value in a little bit, I think gratitude is one of my very most favorite values, because it keeps me happy. It keeps me grounded. It keeps me reminded that there are people out there in the world, and I've seen them and met them, with real desperation, real hunger, and yeah, so let's see. Mindset, keeping a good mindset. Does anybody out there meditate or even know what meditation is, right? I mean, come on, some of you guys, I'm sure, know what meditation is, right? Well, here's how I meditate. I sit where it's quiet, not around these birds. I try to put on soft music, whatever it may be that I'm trying to motivate my energy towards. And I eliminate one thought at a time. Sometimes I fall asleep before I get all of them done. And then I wonder how long how long can I keep my mind with nothing? It doesn't always work. But it gives my mind a break. So when I can give my mind a break, I can come back with a rested brain that I have more control over, and all my emotions align because my thinking is aligned, and I can control that outcome because that outcome is really ultimately my goal. Okay? Without goals, we don't have purpose in our life to keep us going. That's when we give up, when we say, I don't want to live anymore. No, I say, you don't want to live anymore? Man, what the fuck is the opposite of I don't want to live anymore? Because that's what we should be thinking. But let's get back to who we are, right? So you understand patterns about your life. You've written down thoughts, so you have an idea of how to flip those thoughts and create change thoughts, right? That change thought, that's the area in which you're able to control now your actions, your feelings. Okay? So get down to personality tests, right? Remember I told you, what is a personality? Does anybody know what a personality is? Well, it's who you are, right? It's the core of the person who you are, your personality traits. We get those personality traits too. They're learned, and some are handed down, right, from generations. Like I got a personality trait from my grandma, and it was like always to make sure that anybody who was at the house would be able to eat, because that's what she did. So part of her personality was that she was a caterer. She made sure no one went hungry, and she had that great care about her. So the characteristics of who I am, I believe in healing. I'm a little cranky at times when I have to comprehend things a little bit slower, those things, right? So what are personality traits, and really looking at what they are. For me, it was like part of my feelings. What kind of feelings did I not like to have, or how did I not like? I did not like jealousy. It was a characteristic that I really had developed, but didn't like much about myself. So I thought, how do I control that? How do I change that? How do I control that jealousy so that it doesn't control me and create the feelings that I didn't like, right? So I dealt with it right away. I accepted it. I put a lot of different change thoughts into it. I started to create better behaviors, and I had control, and I feel better about it, and I know that didn't conquer me, right? honesty, reliability, dependability, all those things I wanted to be, So I wrote down all of the things that I thought I was, and I wrote all the things that I didn't like about myself, and I started to eliminate those things. And bit by bit, with a lot of work, I was able to narrow down more of who I wanted to be. So that's part of rebuilding your life. Well, I mean, for me, right? That was part of me rebuilding my life. And then, looking at your values. What are your values in life? What makes you happy? What are the beliefs you've been taught? Right? The beliefs you've been taught by your parents, the beliefs that you hold dear based on experiences, because we've all had experiences, right? So, what are values? I love to look at my values. So what I do is I just look at all the values that are available to me, and I pick my highest values and I put them all on a piece of paper. If we think about those values, we're looking at living a healthy life, being happy, money. Some people have money for a value, stability, honesty. What about relationships with your family? What are the values? Being a good parent, traditional values, where people live a traditional life, or, what are your values? So then putting out all of my values on a list and going, now I'm going to put them from 1 to however many, and hierarchy to see which ones are the most important ones to me. I'm going to start to look at why are they really values that I need, right? And why they're that way, and then making sure that they stay in line. And then, the other part about that is I don't just do it one time in my life. I mean, I've rebuilt so many times that it's no, I do it regularly, regularly checking in with myself to say, geez, are my values still in line, or did they change? And why did they change? And what's the thing that made it happen? And, hopefully I would have done the right thing and made the right choices based on controlling my thought processes, right? So redefining your values, something you can do for yourself, right? So then, let's see. So what are values? Asking yourself why all the time. The exercise of asking yourself why. Why is the value of honesty so important? Why is it that I have to prove something to my family? Is it self-based worth? Is it something that I need to do for me? Getting down to the core value, really, is it that value that you don't want to get rid of, and the reason why, and all of those understandings that go with it? So so then go through your list, check it twice, make sure it hasn't changed. Oh my goodness. Is there questions yet? I love questions. Let's see. Okay. Let's see here. I can We can talk more about values if you like. Let's see here. What other tools are there to building your life? Once you find your values and you clarified them, then you have a tool to pull all of those things, all of those characteristics, and all of those values come together, and they start to make more sense about who you are. Like, oh, yeah. So I was raised with Mormons, moral values and values. Most of the respect. Yeah. So how did that work for you? That had to have been a little bit different when you realized that there were a different way of life. When you're raised, see, I get this too. When I was raised to believe a certain thing, and then I finally got out in the world and I realized that life wasn't really like that, or there were other options in life. I got to be inquisitive about it. I wanted to know more about that. And did that make anything, did you feel the same way? Oh, I value myself tremendously. Thank you so much for saying that. Oh, yeah, outrageously. Breaking away from something that has cost you a total different belief system, like you must have. What I feel is you had a spiritual awakening about who you are, about what your value is. Oh, I have the feeling that you were able to do just this, where you stepped away from it all in a supportive, saving your life kind of way. And that was like a soul healing for you. Independence, who you are as a person, and be able to celebrate that. Oh, I think you're amazing. Thank you. Mm. Yeah. I remember so many different times of having to change my life and pulling all these different ideas out and like looking at the world and saying, wow, there's something different, like different cultures. I find cultures so interesting because now helping people understand who they are is a little bit different, right? Because it's not what I think. It's never going to be what I think. It's always what they think and what their life is like. When I psychic profile somebody, I spend just a little bit of time with them, and I can almost pick up the 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 essence of who the person is. Sometimes I can pick up trauma because trauma is something I recognize. You know, I love to capitalize on those positives that people don't normally see. And a lot of times I think when we get that positive energy that comes at us, when we're in a comfortability of not receiving, we just bounce that back to the other person. It's like we don't even acknowledge it. Oh, I take care of myself. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. Self-care is so important, isn't it? I mean, and if you're a person who is just learning how to do self-care, sometimes just the smallest things will pull the rug out from underneath that self-care, that standing on your own, and then all of a sudden it's all gone. I know what that feeling is too. you have to stay. You come to me and talk to me. We can talk about that anytime. You know, the thing I'm going to tell you too is I understand what it's like to be in a scary, abusive relationship, and I understand what it is to have to stay. I understand the feeling that it's your family. Sometimes that's the hardest part, because no, family shouldn't be like, family shouldn't be like that. But I want you to remember, family's always what you make family, right? Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Elm. I appreciate that. Let's see. I don't know how to invite people. I just feel so bad about that. All right. Well, hey, talk about using positivity to take control of the situation. Is, once I was able to figure out who I was again, well, I started working on how do I more control the outcome of my life. I took life a little bit more serious, right? I had a kid, I had gone through a horrible relationship issue, I still wasn't able to, in my early years to grasp some of these things. And I always thought, wow, man, too bad I didn't get that. Too bad somebody didn't give me that opportunity to learn a little bit more. But then I go back to the fact that I couldn't have those amazingly, sometimes horrible, super learning experiences that I have that make me be the person I am today. And there was a long time I didn't like me, but I like me. I like me. I'm a nice person. I'm a person who will listen to you. I'm the kind of person I want to have as a friend, as a daughter. I think it's kind of funny, because the experiences I went through, most people would say to me and have said to me, how did you ever make it through there and have a smile on your face? Well, you know what? It's my fucking choice. And it's beautiful. It's my choice to not be a survivor, not be a victim, but to be a thriver, to be a transcender. I'm transcending, and I want to take as many people with me as possible, because there's no reason why we have to feel like I don't want to live. I don't want to live, there's desperation in the world, and I know that's true. And there's empathy in the world. I know that's true. There's honesty, there's real, if you let it be. That's the big problem in the world today. We don't have a lot of real people. Oh God, we can hide behind a mask, can't we? I mean, we can have any kind of voice we want. We can be anybody we want, and nobody knows. And then when that happens, oh, that's devastating, and it's corrupt, and it doesn't feel very good. I know it doesn't feel very good. Anybody who's got positive in them doesn't like that negative feeling. So, what are our values and what are our characteristics? What belief systems do we hold dear, and can they be challenged? Well, maybe should they be challenged as things are changing in our life, right? No, should we have those challenges? Let's see. One of the exercises that I really appreciated when I was kind of dealing with my AODA stuff was to take my values list. Jesus, man, I'm telling you, that is the most amazing thing to have too, right? My values list. It was, I think the very beginning one was family, the top. It was home security. It was money. It was family, home, security, money. It was schooling. It was a job, schooling. It went like that. And I took my drug of choice, the thing that kept me from living a life. And I went through that list and I said, okay, which one of these am I willing to give up so I could still use? Hey, there wasn't one. There wasn't one. And, that was probably my 5th time of trying, right? So rebuilding our lives, really just figuring out who we are. And sometimes we get broken. And when we get broken, we can pull it all back, but we just have to have the tools to be able to do that. Yeah, I love this. Psychic profiling is really a lot of fun, and I would challenge anybody to be able to do that. It's fun in the way because lots of people don't believe, and then they challenge me, and then I just have this beautiful open ability to just open my body and challenge it and channel it. And all you have to do is talk to me for a few minutes, and sometimes you don't even have to talk to me at all. So if anybody wants that, please hit me up. Let's see here. I would, let's see. Because I don't want to. All right. Chris Blues is in the house. Darcy Rice. Well, hi, Darcy. Let's see, who else do we have here? Thanks for leaving too. Welcome aboard. Kings in Live. Hi, everyone. Wow, Darcy, I haven't seen you in like forever. And the kids are all grown. Mm-hmm. Oh, we're talking about how we use self-discovery and find out who we are. Like when we were young and how we didn't really know who we were when we were young, and all the different kind of things that we had to do to develop to be who we are today. Oh, I'm so glad to see you. Ooh, this is really question and answer. I got no questions, but this is fun. Girl, hasn't life changed for you? How amazing. It's all about the journey. It's all about the journey. We're never really given like a toolbox that says, here you go, this is what your life should be, and these are the choices you're going to have to take to get to where you are, and even if they did, would we be at those young ages, would be the person to say, oh yeah, I'm going to follow everything, and not have a little bit of rebellious in there? Because I think if you told me rules, I'd run around and say, rules, I'm doing the opposite of whatever rules are. That's the thing about discovery, finding out about what it is that are challenges for us, right? Like, right off the bat, I'm an oppositional defiant because you tell me that I have to do something and I'm going to tell you, well, I don't think so. Now, if you ask me if I want, or if you present the fact that there's a job to do and I'm so good at it, right? No problem. So motivation, right? I love motivation. It's like, what else about us, right? I mean, I'm a person who's a deep thinker, right? If you get the idea that you're a deep thinker right away off the bat, well, then you don't allow yourself to isolate for too long, you handle your business, you get right with your mind, and you come back to society and your people. It's like, when we find out what it is, the challenges we can put in some really awesome skills. What are you challenged by, right? Oh shit, man, I was challenged by road rage. Oh hell, give me some road rage, right? And so then how do you handle that road rage without getting angry? Because, I don't like to live in that angry state. I really like to feel happy, So what's going to make me happy is going to control my thoughts. And so I have to control my road rage and self-control. Oh, that's what it is, right? It's self-control. And oh shit, I suffer with self-control issues. Anybody else? Right? Because I know I'm not alone out here. Right? So, anger. Ooh, shit. Let's talk about emotions. I used to be such an angry person. Well, could you believe that? Yeah, I was an angry person. Shoot. I think I almost tried to kill somebody a couple times, but I'll never tell, And I had a right to be angry. You ever get those situations growing up or whatever that you're not allowed to have emotions? Some people grow up and they think that they're not allowed to have emotions. They're bad. And you only display certain emotions in the environment, right? Mostly they were your parents, and so some people don't have the idea that you can have an emotion. You can have an emotion, and when you have an emotion, you just should be able to let your emotion out safely. Safe environment where nobody's gonna get hurt if you go a little crazy, because that's what happens, right? But we're safe and we can let our emotion out, and now we can process our emotion. And sometimes processing the emotion is the problem. Like, we don't know how. So it's talking to somebody and trying to figure out, well, actually, maybe just letting that person listen to you so you can talk out loud. You're the person who's really processing what's going on in your life, and so whatever those emotions are, is anger a bad emotion? Is anger a bad emotion? Because I don't think any emotion is bad, really. They all serve a purpose. It's how we control it by our thought process. Really, it's the key. Like I said, if you had a thought, just one thought, and this thought was like the kick-ass of all thoughts. This thought kicked your ass every time. You couldn't get over it. It doesn't go away. It just keeps coming back. And it's the one that just really pisses you off or touches your ego or whatever that is, that one thought. If you had a key to change that thought so that you could take that power back, would you do it? Self-control. Would you do it? how many times would I have not been in a bad situation or had that goal gone wrong because it wasn't a goal, it was just a choice. It wasn't even thought of because it was just an emotional roller coaster, you know? Yeah. So self-journey is key, really, I think, to happiness, because we start to, find out who we are, that good person inside of us, the thing that other people see that we don't, right? Mirroring, finding people who mirror that for you, right? That person that will listen to ya, that just lets you roll on with your thoughts so you can hear them, but also that mirrors back to you the good things, who you are, right? So what is the good in you? Who is the good person? What are those good qualities inside of yourself, right? And then mirrors it enough that you can see it, and then take that and mirror it to yourself, in a mirror every day. And now we're really starting to process in our mind and control our minds, because we took a lot of negative, some of us took a lot of negative thought process in. You're not going to amount to be anything. You're whatever the thoughts are, right? There could be so many negative thoughts that just kind of roll in our head. And then that just eats up who we are. That eats up my happy. I don't want that. I don't want that. I want to be happy. So how am I going to continue to roll with my happy? And be realistic with who I am, and constantly fixing the things that maybe aren't good for me, or those behaviors that don't serve me. And, because that's part of my self-control. That's part of how I remain happy, right? Those are amazing things. Okay, so then again, I'm going to talk a little bit more about psychic profiling. How I learned to do this was when I got to do assessments. Taking an assessment, immediately I could feel a person's, they tell me about what time they were using. Maybe they started using at 12, and I could go, okay, I know what the development would be like, but then being able to get in closer and deeper and see the qualities that they don't see every day, that helps me and helps them right away discover that good person and pull it back out and remember that person. Remember that quality, that characteristics that you have that maybe you forgot about or haven't been even tapped into. Maybe you didn't even know that that's who you are. And you can accept that right away with an open mind, or you can test it. Well, I love being tested. That's the most fun, because usually I'm really right on. And those folks that say that I'm not, it's really neat, because then they'll come back years later and they're like, well, I didn't realize that, but I had to come back and tell you because you were right, So that's really fun, I used to do tarot card readings all the time when I was a young girl, and it's I was really good. They were going to hire me on, back in the day when you had the phone calls, they were going to hire me, but I was like, no, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to work with disabled people, folks with challenges, that's where I started. But then, what I realized is that I'm a healer. I can probably tell you your future, but to tell you your future and to take away from you that learning lesson I learned really early in life, that just hurts that person, because what it does is it takes their learning lesson away. And I've done that before, but the person suffers so much more. And I don't want to see people suffer. That's not what I'm here for. I'm a healer. I heal people. People can't be around me for very long without feeling the healingness. And it's a gift. It's not me. It comes through me. It's amazing. It's amazing. And there isn't anything I can talk about. There's nothing that I feel kind of shameful about anymore. I've kind of worked through all of those things. I still struggle with the internal criticisms. I think everybody does. It's going to be a thing for the rest of my life. And that's okay too. As long as I can recognize when I'm hitting that road down to the bad path, I can pull my shit together and I can get back where I need to be and I can continue to be happy. And I think about life like really how many happy days versus how many unhappy days, and do I really like the chaos? Is there anything I can change? If there's nothing I can change about a situation, I learn to quit fretting for it, quit worrying about it. Don't let it rob that from me, because that moment that I have, I'm also learning that time isn't really, when I was younger, I thought time, I got all the time in the world. And now, I'm a little older and I think, how much does my time matter? What are my values, right? Now I say, I value helping people. I value the journey. I value my life. I value my friends. I value my family. I value honesty, dependability, reality, true reality. I like validation. I believe in gratitude. Gratitude keeps me founded. It keeps me reminded that it's been worse. It's not so bad right now. No. And it also reminds me that when it is the worst, when I do feel like it's the absolute worst I could possibly be going through, it quickly makes me realize the lesson. Because as soon as I can realize the lesson, the pain has meaning. The pain and the suffering have meaning. And if I can take that meaning, process it, turn it around for a lesson or a training moment for someone, then that's good. That's good. That's good. I own what I do. I learn from it. I try not to carry shame and guilt about it. I accept it. I forgive myself for it. But all of that has to be part of who I am. How do I know who I am? Do I like who I am? Self-discovery is the most important thing when you feel like your life is broken and you don't know who you are anymore. And, it's good to find you again. I think it's good to find me again. So, hey, if you like this, this is what I do. I'm a coach, counselor. I'm going to do these every Sunday at 12 for, Central Time, whatever standard Central Time. Do all that good stuff. Thank you. If you have any questions, I don't know. I don't see anybody's questions, but thank you. And I hope you enjoyed this. Again, it's so important to know who we are, to get to know us, find out what our values are, our characteristics. And if you don't know, hey, come talk to me. We'll discover it together. HopeTranscends.com. You can catch me in my bio, link to my socials, and Good night.